what I like to say is rather than waiting for the clock to start ticking again, regardless of when a plan renews, the best time to start strategizing and looking to optimize and just doing due diligence is right now. That's the perfect time. When you do that, then you lay the groundwork for something better, potentially much better than what you're currently doing, because there's no time pressure that you have to compete with.
Benefits on the fly.
Okay, 49 Delta Kilo, runway 16, clear for takeoff, right turn out on course, traffic on the left, base to final, touch and go assessment.
Clear takeoff, runway 16, I'll be straight out southbound.
Okay, 9 Delta Kilo, 5 runway heading then, and report leaving Delta airspace.
Runway heading, we'll report ground to Kilo.
13 uniform, contact ground 127.4.
Ground 127.4, 5213 uniform.
So we just left Bellingham Airport. Such a beautiful flight out here. The weather cooperates. It's my favorite things is to go visit our clients up in Bellingham. Headed back to Olympia. I just had a meeting with a group, and the renewal isn't until the beginning of the year. And here it is, just April, and I love that they're open to talking about strategy and what their benefits could do. They're doing that not during open enrollment, when it's crazy busy. They're doing it well beforehand so they can strategize and they can walk into that renewal a lot less stressed. One of the most costly myths when it comes to employee benefits is this belief that, planning should just begin like 3 months before the renewal of their health insurance plan. And kind of mindset, I think, that keeps companies trapped in this, what I call a reactive cycle, like a treadmill or a hamster wheel, this reactive cycle where they're just scrambling under pressure and forced to make these quick decisions. And there's no space for any kind of exploration of other innovative strategies or just better options that might be out there. We see this because it's crazy, and then all of a sudden, once the open enrollment is over, it's like there's this collective exhale among the HR and CFO, and the assumption is, okay, we made it through another benefit cycle. We came out sort of okay, sort of unscathed, and the assumption there is just that the benefits could just be put on the shelf and put it back on the shelf till next year, and then it's crunch time all over again at the next renewal. And I mean, here's what usually happens, right? There's the renewals, first of all, they arrive too late. And so there's no time. There's not adequate enough time. So the companies are just kind of stuck reacting instead of planning. And the choices that they are provided with their broker, a lot of times they just feel repetitive. It's the same limited menu. The same plans are just kind of being regurgitated or recycled. And there's little room for innovation or for just new ideas. And if there's no clear benchmarks, then companies will skip critical comparisons of how their plans stack up, whether their costs are in line with the market. When groups wait, not only are they not able to compare their plans, or benchmark their plans and how they compare with their competitors that are also offering benefits and trying to attract and retain the same type of employees, but they also don't have any time to rate or gauge how their broker is actually performing. And so with that control, it slips away, and with the time that runs out, decisions just get rushed and better options don't even get considered. And we see this all the time. So what I like to say is rather than waiting for the clock to start ticking again, regardless of when a plan renews, the best time to start strategizing and looking to optimize and just doing due diligence is right now. That's the perfect time. When you do that, then you lay the groundwork for something better, potentially much better than what you're currently doing, because there's no time pressure that you have to compete with. Okay, so what do you do if you're going to look at your plan before renewal? Well, the first thing you want to do is you want to audit your benefits, and that includes the benchmarking part of it. but you want to evaluate the coverage that you're providing your employees, but also the cost to see is what you're paying realistic or in line with the rest of the market. And then the second thing you want to do is you have time, so it's best to benchmark your benefits to see how your plan stacks up to the competition. That's the time to determine maybe if you realize that, wow, we're really missing the mark here. Maybe this is why when we have our exit interviews and employees are saying they are leaving us for better benefits, this is what they mean, because this is what our competition is offering. You can see all that through benchmarking reports. And then I mentioned before, the other issue is to evaluate broker results. And what I mean by this is to actually do a multi-year analysis. So look back over the last 5 years if you've been with your broker that long, and look at what your plan was 5 years ago and what the per employee cost is, not the total, but the per employee cost, and really take a look at how your benefits have adjusted or been adjusted over those 5 years. Because a lot of times we lose that history as the years go by. And it can be really eye-opening to see, wow, we had a $500 deductible 5 years ago, and now it's at a $4,000 deductible. And our per employee cost is the same as what it was 500. So we've really cost shifted to our employees, and that's probably not something that they can easily handle. Payne Tower, MP of 549 Delta Kilo, 10 miles northwest with request. Yeah, 549 Delta Kilo, request transition southwestbound along the west shoreline at 2,400.
Delta Kilo, Payne Tower transition approved, Payne altimeter 3006.
Transition approved, 3006, 549 Delta Kilo.
Ground 7380 Echo is at Alpha 7, request taxi to Regal.
Going down.
So another thing that happens when you evaluate your broker over a long period of time is you not only see the plan changes and the cost shifts that you had to make over those 5 years. This helps you assess whether your broker is adding real value or if they're just simply maintaining the status quo. You can also look at what other options did they present over those 5 years by looking at those plan comparisons to determine if they talked about alternate funding strategies and other ways that you can control those costs, stabilize those rates, or is it just kind of the same recycle? You can really start seeing, okay, is it just the same 5 insurance companies just being recycled in front of us? A lot of brokers just use a simple website where they go on. They don't really have to do any work. They just plug in a couple of numbers, push a button, and it spits out for them a plan comparison, a spreadsheet that they can just email over to a prospective client or to the current client. Problem is, those software systems, we're familiar with them, but you're given a limited selection of plans to choose from. So anyway, that 5-year review can be a huge, huge benefit. We're flying over Mukilteo Ferry, going back and forth. So it's pretty eye-opening when you look back over not just when you look back more than just the previous year. You can see how your benefits and costs change, but also you can really get an idea of what your broker has been presenting over those 5 years. If it seems like it's the same thing, the same carousel of plans or not. Additionally, what we like to recommend is that a group, they ask their employees, ask their people what they think. We use surveys to understand what employees actually value about their benefits. And their feedback can be huge in determining what smarter choices can be made. A lot of times, employers get it wrong. They assume that an employee wants one thing when really there's maybe something else that's more important. And the best way to get that information is just to ask them. And through those anonymous surveys or even non-anonymous surveys, we can get that data. And that really helps us to determine the best course of action moving forward. Another thing we recommend when it comes to evaluating your plan well in advance is analyzing actual claims data. Perfect time to do this is not during open enrollment, but mid-year, maybe 6 months before, or even 9 months before, just after really looking at the claims data and identifying usage patterns from the previous year and where those high-cost areas are. A lot of groups don't realize that sometimes only 1 or 2% of their total employee force are actually making up 40% of their claims expenses. And if we can dial in and drill down deep onto what are those actual expenses, and we can benchmark those costs comparatively to see, are we overpaying somewhere for medications, or are we overpaying for procedures or chronic conditions? Is there some better solution for the employee that will help lower their costs and out of pocket and also lower the overall healthcare spend? Boy, what a beautiful afternoon. Sun reflecting on the water here. I think overall, what I can always see happen whenever a company embraces the idea of doing a deep dive into their benefit strategy outside of that crunch time of open enrollment, it shifts them from being reactive and making choices where they're settling and they're kind of reluctant during that renewal period. When groups adopt this early strategic planning, it makes that renewal process practically stress-free, because you go into it knowing exactly what is going to work for the employees. You have actual claims data, so you know where cost controls can be. It allows the broker to do early negotiations with carriers if there's a favorite. You want to stay with an incumbent carrier. We can do a deep dive into market analysis and see what the market provides, take that data, and go and negotiate with the incumbent carrier, especially if they want to keep that group. All those things happen much easier when we can work on that earlier than just 2 or 3 months before renewal. I can't tell you how many times a company will say to me, well, our renewal isn't until the end of the year, so give us a call in September. It's just not necessary to put yourself through that kind of stress load, and it always results in settling for a plan because you've just literally run out of time. I see this happen over and over. Strategic planning, it takes time. When it comes to benefits, starting early definitely pays off. By getting ahead of that renewal, you can avoid the rush. You make well-informed decisions. You don't have any deadline pressure. They make well-informed decisions with the company and their team and their needs and their goals instead of that one-size-fits-all approach.